everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well. So today's video is going to be something a little bit different. I get a lot of questions about my job, like what I do for work, my experience being a tattoo apprentice, and yeah, just kind of like general tips. So today I would just sit down and answer all the questions that you had about tattooing, apprenticeships, all of that. I've partnered up with Skillshare for today's video. They are sponsoring this for me, so thank you so much to Skillshare for that. I'd heard things about Skillshare before, but I didn't really understand what it was. So Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives. So they've got like tons and tons of different courses that you can enroll onto. Such a wide variety of courses on there as well. You've got things like illustration, business marketing, pretty much the entire creative spectrum. There is a course for everything. I chose to enroll on the Procreate one. Procreate is what I use to draw all my tattoo designs and make all my stencils on. And although I've used it for a couple of years, I've only really do like the absolute most basic stuff on there. I actually learned so much just from kind of being spoken through a lot of the features that I actually never really use of it. Courses themselves are actually really enjoyable as well. I think with most creative things they're a little bit more interesting to learn, in my opinion anyway. I think it's a really good idea for people who maybe aren't 100% certain where they kind of want to go next steps, like creative wise. There's so much information on there, and of course you can enroll in any of them. Once you have the membership you can enroll in any of them. So yeah, it's essentially kind of like doing an art foundation course, but yeah, a lot quicker and a lot cheaper. So yeah, literally amazing. I think it's such a good idea. Even if, say, you have a job now in graphic design, it's really interesting to actually learn from other people and pick up maybe little things that you aren't doing at the moment. There will be a link in the description box below, and the first 1,000 people who click on that link will be offered a free 2-month subscription with Skillshare, which is an amazing opportunity. So yeah, if you are interested, get down there quick and click on that. After that, it's only around £10 a month. So yeah, really reasonable for the amount of information that's on there. I just think that's like a really good idea. Obviously, a lot of people watching this will be interested in creative careers, even in tattooing. A lot of the basics in illustration, even graphic design, I found have helped me massively just with simplifying design. I feel like in general in creative careers you can take bits from kind of every different aspect and use them to your advantage. If that is something you're interested in, do check the link down below. So I asked on Instagram any questions that you had about the tattoo industry in general, my experience with apprenticeships, and there were so many. So I'm going to try and answer obviously the ones that were asked multiple times and just the ones I think are going to be the most helpful. If I don't answer your question, I'm very sorry, but I don't want to sit here all night. So kind of starting from the beginning, somebody asked me, why did you want to tattoo? For me, it was always what I wanted to do. I can't really honestly understand why that is, because nobody around me had tattoos growing up. Honestly, since I can remember really, I always knew I was going to end up in some form of creative job. And then, yeah, like even my mum said, like I used to draw over all of my dolls. Like I literally used to cover them in tattoos, and it's so weird because I actually had no like tattoo influence in my life at all until obviously quite a bit later on. So yeah, very strange. But it was in obviously secondary school I started to be like quite a lot more serious about it. I had a time around when I was at college where I sort of thought, is this like realistically going to happen? It's very hard to get into. I feel like in the education system anyway, I feel like you're always kind of pushed away from the creative jobs if possible because it's not like a career sort of thing. Every time it was always just what I ended up going back to wanting to do, and it was the only thing I was genuinely really interested in doing. So yeah. So the next question, probably the most asked one, was how did you get your apprenticeship? So this is obviously just my personal experience. It varies so much and it's so different for everybody. I was working in makeup at this point. I've spoken about this a little bit before, but in case anyone's kind of new here or doesn't know, I've always done makeup. I've always been interested in makeup, but it was never what I wanted to do as a career. I got really down a few years ago. Like my mental health was awful, working at home full time. And yeah, a friend of mine, she worked for a makeup brand, and she said like, do you want to come and just do 3 days a week, just get you like into a routine and stuff. So that's why I went on to work in makeup. I found it just relatively easy. It was a retail job, it was fine. It just kind of got me like back on my feet a little bit after like quite a hard time. And actually while I was working in makeup, a friend of mine who is also a tattoo artist in Brighton, she sent me a shop in London were looking for apprentices. So like I literally that night got home, wrote like a cover letter, sent my portfolio over and everything. And then yeah, they invited me to come up for an interview. I think it was like a couple of weeks later or something. And yeah, I went up there. I think they wanted people to kind of start fairly quickly. So they offered me, and there was another boy, they offered us both the apprenticeship. And it was one of those things where when you want something so much, I think you don't really think about the kind of, the kind of technicalities of it. So it was in the centre of London. I would have had to move up there. They were looking at it being about a 2-year apprenticeship before I'd even tattoo or something, which I completely didn't mind doing. And I'd expected that to be the situation, but yeah, it was going to be so much commuting for me. It was going to be like, my life was going to change, obviously. I wouldn't have any time to work on the side to make any money. So yeah, it was like actually really tough because I really, really wanted to do it, but I just had to think like realistically this isn't going to work at all. I felt really down about that actually. I felt really shitty because I kind of like, you know, tattoo apprenticeships don't come around very often, so I kind of thought, oh, am I being stupid? Should I just go for this? But there was just way too much that just wouldn't have worked out. At that point I was being all, you know, doom and gloom. And Luca was like, why don't you just ask Gully, like just ask him, the worst he can say is no, and then, you know, figure something else out. So Gully, yeah, his Instagram is Gulliver Tattoos. I'll leave like all of their names anyway down below. But yeah, he owns Top Boy in Hove. I knew Gully already. He's done all of Luca's tattoos, and he worked with G, who's obviously done pretty much most of mine. So we had like a kind of vague connection anyway. I knew that he'd opened his new shop maybe 6 months before. I know that when he was first opening it, he did mention to Luca that he was looking for like a studio manager kind of thing. At the time, he just wasn't ready to take anybody on, and I was like, yeah, fine, cool. So yeah, I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna message him. The worst he can do is pie me, and then I'll just leave the country. Just messaged him just saying like the situation, what hadn't worked out, and just saying like, just wondering if you would want like a studio manager, or just kind of just for me to be in there for any reason really. Fully expecting him to be like, no, sorry, because he's a busy man, you know. I wasn't expecting anything. And then yeah, he was like, yeah, come on, like we'll meet up, we'll talk about it. And that was last summer actually, so yeah, I've been there a year now. Sorry if that's like just a super waffly long story for that. I think it's important to kind of include like everything because it is like my full experience. So this question got asked quite a lot as well. So somebody asked, how long is an apprenticeship? This really depends. Like, they're a really weird thing, apprenticeships, I think, in general, because you don't really have like a start and end date. It's not really, you know, you're not contracted, there's nothing like in writing, you're just sort of there. Completely depends on the shop that you're in, your situation, I guess if you do it full time or not. So yeah, I went in full time, I did a full-time apprenticeship. I was doing just apprenticey things for maybe 6 months or so. Maybe longer, maybe slightly longer actually. It leads on to like the next question of kind of like, what do you do as an apprentice? So yeah, like a typical day for me was get there before everybody's there, set everybody's stations up, make sure there's everything in the cupboard that everyone's gonna need, make a list of things that we might need to order. Yeah, just make sure everything's clean, everything's stocked, and then yeah, just kind of throughout the day I would just sit and draw like at the table. And yeah, you kind of just run around, get everyone drinks, get everyone's lunch, just make sure everyone's like happy really. So all that they have to do is tattoo pretty much. Yeah, just keep everyone happy. So yeah, then in September last year I did my first tattoo on myself and did one on Luca as well. And then yeah, I started tattooing full time from January, so the start of this year. So yeah, for me it was actually quite a fast-paced apprenticeship, but as I said, it was full time and I was there a lot, so we kind of crammed a lot of it into a shorter space of time, whereas I know people who have done 3-day apprenticeships and it's gone on for like years. Gully was quite keen to kind of get me like going, and he taught me things really quickly and really well, so yeah, I was very grateful for that. So yeah, I was expecting it to be kind of years before I even tattooed, but yeah, I was very, very lucky with how quick it was. This one was, did you study anything before tattooing which you think helped you? There was a lot of questions about that, kind of like, do you need a degree, do you need this. Again, tattooing is such like a grey area. There's no qualification, kind of like if you've got a degree in this, you'll definitely get in. I did all art subjects at college purely because I had to go to college and I just wanted to do something that was going to be fairly easy. I wouldn't necessarily say that it helped me really in any way, because yeah, from the day that you start your apprenticeship, it's a whole new thing. Like, you're just learning completely new things. There's nothing really that kind of compares to it. Of course, if you have done art subjects, it's always going to help you because, I mean, you'll be good at drawing. But yeah, for the actual kind of technical side of tattooing, there's kind of no sort of pre-training, which can be really daunting when you kind of turn up. But then at the same time, everybody's in the same boat. You can't be expected to kind of understand it all on day one because there's no kind of like background sort of training or anything. You just kind of learn on the job. I did photography, textiles and graphics at college, just in case anyone gives a shit. Like I said, I was only ever really going to go into a creative job anyway. If tattooing didn't work out, I don't really know what I was planning on doing, but it would have been something probably to like graphic design, illustration, something along those lines. So I actually thought this was a really interesting question. Do you think you should continue an apprenticeship if you don't feel respected by the people you work with? I just think that's such a difficult one, because obviously immediately you'd say no, absolutely not, leave. But then, like I said, that's the kind of situation I was in, because I knew how hard it was to get into, and I kind of thought, is this the only opportunity that I'm going to get? Do I just stick it out? But ultimately I'm always going to say no if you don't feel respected. I mean, it's hard because a lot of old school tattoo shops, like, we're very lucky at Top Boy. It's a very sort of modern, new kind of take on tattooing. A lot of the old school shops are very like, you need to earn your respect, kind of break you down and stuff, and I just don't really understand how that's going to help anyone. It's kind of fucking traumatising, if anything. Yeah, I just think it's sad, and I think it's a bit of like a abuse of power really from some people, just to kind of try and make you feel really shitty. Which I was so grateful, like, could not be more grateful that I didn't have to learn in that environment. I know that's a really tough one, because I think in any job that you really want to do, you are likely to just stick through the shit because you really want to be there. But yeah, very sorry for that person, because I know that is a difficult, very difficult situation to be in. This was another really interesting question actually. Somebody asked, have you found it difficult being a young female in a male-dominated, that doesn't look right. It is right. In a male-dominated industry. So again, I think if you take one look at Top Boy, you'll be like, okay, wow, it's the most beautiful, pink, leafy place you've ever been in your life. Pretty much every single person who comes in is like, oh my god, this is the most beautiful studio. I'm so lucky to work with, honestly, like, the best group of people in the world. They're just so respectful of each other, so supportive. We all genuinely love each other to bits. So for me, like, the men that I work with are just absolute dreams. Like, the guys in our shop are just like the most supportive. Like, they're always just hyping us up. They always want us to do well. There's no egos amongst any of us, so it's just like the most amazing work environment ever. But that being said, I can definitely see how in other shops, as like a young female, I would feel intimidated even going in to get tattooed, so let alone working there. Again, I just think it's quite an old school thing, which unfortunately still happens. I don't know, use your power as a woman, like, to the best of your ability, and just thrash all of them is what I would suggest. Yeah, don't let anybody make you feel small in that environment. It's very easy to kind of be made to feel quite like small and intimidated, especially when people have been doing things for a long time and you're trying to learn. It's like in any job, you never want to be the new one. It's always terrifying. So yeah, fuck them, honestly. Anyone who makes you feel like that in any job, nope. Definitely working in a studio with such amazing, independent, strong women who are so incredible at what they do is always going to help, because we just lift each other up. I feel very grateful to work with a team of women like that. I personally feel very lucky in respects to that. In general, the whole tattoo industry is definitely moving in the right direction. Recently there's been so many like big open conversations about like consent, respect in tattoo studios, which I think was just long overdue. So yeah, even if you are surrounded by absolute shitheads, just get your apprenticeship done, use them for what you can, and then get out and move to somewhere a lot more accepting. Somebody asked, did you struggle with doubting yourself and having doubts from other people? This is something I definitely wanted to talk about, because for me, I just think so many people had this idea that like, oh, she's just walked straight in, she's just learnt to tattoo, that's it, done. Like, it was never that easy. You know, I mean, of course people watch me on Instagram and I don't post the shit bits, you know, I don't post me carrying 30 plenty kitchen rolls, you know, like no one wants to see that. So I've obviously only posted like the edited highlights of the entire thing. If people actually saw like the whole situation, they would just be like, okay, this is not glam. I did my apprenticeship full time and I was still working full time on top of that, so I was doing 2 full-time jobs. I did long days in my apprenticeship as well, like they were full days. Yeah, still trying to keep up with like my filming, Instagram, all the social media side of everything. Yeah, it was very hard. End of last year was probably the worst kind of time I've had in my life. A lot of different things, just with like family issues. It was just a really hard time. So I still need to make enough money on the side, so I kind of had to up my YouTube and everything like that. Yeah, so it was just really difficult for me to fit everything in. So yeah, I don't know, I try not to really give a shit what people say, because I know people just say stuff about everybody all the time. But yeah, I don't know, it kind of annoyed me a bit that people think, oh, you know, everything's just easy, it was so easy for you because of this, because of this. I just think, you know, if I wasn't capable of doing it, they wouldn't let me. Like, I couldn't turn up at an accountancy firm tomorrow and say, oh, please can I have a job because I've got Instagram followers. They'd take one look at me and say, you are absolutely thick as shit, there's no way. Like, if it wasn't something I was already interested in and I had the ability to do, there's no way that I would have been able to do it. Not easy, it is hard work. I think a lot of people have this idea of what it is, and somebody actually asked me on here, like, do you just have fun all day? And I was like, yeah, but it is hard as well. Like, it's a very difficult job. It's an amazing job, but for me, of course, I have always had another job. I'm trying to balance the 2 jobs. I'm obviously still doing that now, tattooing full-time and doing this full-time as well. So yeah, it definitely hasn't been easy, but so rewarding. So yeah, I would do it all over again. What was the question? I've rambled. Of course, people are always going to doubt you, but I just think if these people actually put energy into themselves rather than just chat shit on the internet, they might actually be successful as well. But some of you are not ready for that. You know, you can be angry about people getting opportunities your whole life, but it's going to be a long old time. You're definitely better off just being happy for people and getting on with your own shit. So in terms of like doubting myself, I feel like anyone who's in any sort of creative job, you are always your worst critic. Like, anything you look at, you're like, I hate that, I absolutely hate it. Sometimes I kind of just try and see things through like a fresh set of eyes, because when I look at other people's work, I'm like, oh my god, that is so beautiful. But when it's yours, because you've looked at it for so long, you're like, oh. I just think that's something that always comes with being like a creative person or whatever. You're always going to be so self-critical. But I think in some ways that's an amazing thing, you know, to be a perfectionist, especially in a job like tattooing. You definitely want to be like a bit of a perfectionist. So yeah, I would just say use that to your advantage. And with other people doubting you, fuck them, you know the drill. So then I had a few questions about the more kind of technical side, like the actual tattooing side. So I had a lot of people asking me, did you practice on fake skin before you went on to people? I tried to, but I absolutely hate it. For me, it was more beneficial to get used to using the machine, because obviously it's very different to drawing because the machine's constantly like vibrating. So that's a really weird thing to get used to. So yeah, for me, using the fake skin was more helpful in terms of getting used to basically just setting up the machine, holding the machine, yeah, just kind of adjusting your grip and things like that. But in terms of actual sort of line work and stuff with it, I didn't really find that it helped me very much. The fake skin is really gross, and it's like, has like a dusty film on the top, so the ink, you wipe it and it just like sticks. People do tattoo pig skin. I was absolutely not going to be doing that because they stink, and I love pigs, so yeah, that was not going to happen. I think once you do start tattooing real life skin, you realise that nothing is really even anywhere close to tattooing real skin. So yeah, absolutely terrifying, but you are better to just kind of go for it. find a limb that you're never going to have to see again. Just go for it. Question was, what was your first tattoo and how nervous were you to do it? So my first tattoo I actually did on myself. I'm trying to show you. Please ignore my trackies. Oh god. Okay, yeah, you can kind of see it. So I did this one here. It's just a little gothic bee. All our dogs' names begin with B, so did that. Definitely recommend doing something blacked out for your first tattoo. That was like Gully's advice, and it was I did ever, because obviously you do the lines and you fuck them up and then you just colour it in. So yeah, me doing it on myself took a lot of that initial stress out of it, because I don't know, there's something about if you fuck it up on yourself, it's fine. If you are comfortable to tattoo yourself, I would definitely recommend that. And then that same day I did one on Luca's ankle as well. I just did some little olives on his ankle. They're really small and they're just like basic outline. Yeah, they're kind of cute. It's just like a nice little memory. Yeah, that was my first one. And then actually after that, I didn't tattoo like start to finish until January. No, till just before Christmas. But I was kind of jumping on to tattoos that Gully was doing, so I would watch Gully all day pretty much, and kind of just watch everybody in the studio and just kind of watch like the different techniques they do, kind of how they'd set up their machines. That was really helpful for me, just kind of watching as many different people as you can, even if it isn't the style that you want to go into. I think just watching somebody tattoo and seeing how they kind of hold everything will be really helpful for you. Yeah, I would sit and watch Gully tattoo pretty much all day. He does a lot of realism, so sometimes if like his client was like happy to let me, I'd just kind of jump on and kind of like shade a bit of theirs, just like a kind of easy bit. So yeah, that was really nice because it kind of just takes that pressure off the first like client. So yeah, they were my kind of first sort of few tattoos. And then yeah, the first ones, I can't even remember them. I think I was just so nervous every single day that I've just completely erased the memory. The social side of it is really intense at first, like having to hold that many conversations with that many people throughout the day is a lot. But yeah, you definitely get used to that. I would recommend watching everything on Netflix, because then anything anyone asks, have you seen this, you can say yes. Yeah, and then you can talk about that. So that's probably the best thing that I learned to do. Yeah, I just think you're always going to be terrified. It's so alien at first. When you first pick up that machine, you're like, this is never going to feel normal ever. It is the weirdest thing. It's so different to drawing. It's so different to anything else. But yeah, you obviously, like everything, you do get used to it. Learn as you go, really. Any way to learn it is to just do it. So yeah, the first bit is terrifying and you'll be sweating all the time, but definitely worth it in the end. So the last question that I'm going to answer was, what equipment did you start out with? So yeah, a few people asked this and kind of said, like, is the startup really expensive? It can be, yeah. I'm going to link everything that I use like down below. I honestly hate children so much. Shut up. When I started, I think I was just using everyone's stuff in the studio, I'm pretty sure. Then we went to London Tattoo Convention in September. Me, Gully and G went, and Gully bought me my first machine, which was so lovely, and I feel like I'll like always remember that. Like, I owe a lot to him, and it was just really lovely, like, that he bought me my first machine and, you know, like, taught me basically everything that I know. So yeah, I learnt with a rotary machine. I know a lot of people do learn with like coils, but yeah, just for like the style of work that I was going to do, actually I don't think anybody in the shop uses a coil machine at all. They're obviously a little bit more old school, and yeah, I got tiny hands as well, so using like a smaller machine was way easier for me because it wasn't so heavy and it was just kind of balanced out. And yeah, it was just easier for me to use. And I bought myself a new machine like the start of this year, and I absolutely love it. It's just really quiet, it doesn't vibrate too much. Really, really quiet whenever I'm tattooing. Everyone's like, oh, it's actually really relaxing, that little buzzing noise. It's not like a super loud one, because otherwise you just get absolute migraine after a few hours. When you buy everything at first, yeah, it is kind of expensive, but no more than kind of when you have to buy all the equipment for any job. So yeah, you just sort of have to buy like your power pack, machine, obviously, your first kind of like needles, grips, that sort of thing. They, you know, if you look after them, they do last like a good few years, so yeah, it's definitely an investment. That is it for the questions I'm going to answer. Hopefully I've kind of covered like most people's questions. So I will leave the link in the description down below to the Skillshare. Like I said, the first 1,000 people that click on that will be offered a 2-month free subscription. So that's to all of the courses, so yeah, absolutely amazing. If you're interested in that, check that out very speedily. And that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to everybody who asked me questions. Just a massive thank you to everybody for all like the support all the time, and for actually wanting me to kind of do this video. Thank you so much for watching this, and thank you for being here. I will be back very, very soon. Love you.